Hi, and welcome to the SIME Inside Out podcast, brought to you by Lancaster University Management School. In this series, we're speaking with the members of SIME community, the Center for Scholarship and Innovation in Management Education, to explore how engaging with SIME has shaped their thinking, development, and practice. Through these short real stories, we shed a light on the value of educational communities, creative approaches, and transformative experiences in teaching and learning. My name is Vlada, and today I'm excited to have in our studio Emma Watton. Hi, Emma.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. How was your day so far?
Very good, thank you.
That's wonderful. So just to begin, we would love to hear something about your academic journey and your current role in Lancaster University.
Okay, so I've been at Lancaster since 2013. I have worked at other universities before, but coming to Lancaster was my first full-time academic role. So I've been here a number of years. I'm in the Department of Entrepreneurship and Strategy, and I'm a senior teaching fellow. My main teaching is in the area of leadership, and I also teach on some of our consultancy challenge programs.
Oh, that's wonderful. So before joining SIME, were there any particular challenges that you were facing actually in your teaching and academic work that made SIME seem to be a right decision?
Yeah, I think I've always felt maybe as a teaching fellow, it was harder to find a community of like-minded individuals. So people that were very much focused on scholarship and teaching, rather than maybe research-intensive colleagues. The closest I think I had found previously was when I'd done my postgraduate certificate in academic practice. So that was very much focused on teaching and learning, and there you did have a network of people, but that I'd completed that fairly early on when I joined Lancaster. And so other than a few other colleagues in my department who were also teaching fellows, you are sort of very much left to your own devices, really.
Yeah, that's true. So, and what led you to this decision to engage with SIME, and what were you hoping it would bring to your academic and teaching practice at that particular point of time?
So around the time that SIME started, I had become aware of the term SoTL, and I was working on a project with a colleague at Henley Management School, and it was a SoTL-based project, and she'd introduced me to that term. And so I suppose my interest had been piqued at that point, and it was almost coincidence then. SIME started, it was focused on SoTL, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I then felt, oh, I know a little bit about SoTL, and so that was my decision, I think, to join at that moment in time. Now, that was actually before SIME became an official centre. We were exploring it, and a few people came together under Radke's leadership to test it. So I came in at the very first session, actually. But it was, as I say, because I was already interested in that term and how it was being developed in the teaching and research community, that I thought, oh, this is a good fit for me.
Yeah, I see. And just looking back at your experience with SIME, did it turn the way you expected?
I think it's got bigger and better than I thought. It's always difficult with these things, isn't it? Because there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm to begin with, and then maintaining that, I think, can sometimes be difficult. But what has been fantastic, I think, is the number of people now that have either come at different times or continue to come, and the reach. So going beyond just the management school into some other faculties, the wider network we have through BEST. I think Radke's done a fantastic job at getting the name out there, and continuing to have some momentum. So, yeah, I've been really actually surprised at how much it's grown.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what was the atmosphere like when you just joined the SIME, and how does it feel to be a member, the part of this environment now?
Yes, I think there was a lot of curiosity to begin with. People just were interested to see what it was about. I think maybe because I've been at the management school for quite a few years now, more than 10 years, I did know quite a few people. So that felt quite collegiate already. But the other great thing about it is I've met people from other departments and other faculties who I wouldn't have interacted with previously. So that's been really fantastic to meet, engage with those people, find common ground with those people. And also now I think it does feel like a friendly, supportive place to be.
Yeah. And as a lot of our guest speakers already mentioned, that SIME's distinctive quality is actually its diversity. As you've already mentioned, it brings together people from different academic backgrounds and different disciplines, basically. So, did you find yourself connecting and collaborating with your colleagues from other departments as well?
Definitely connecting, yes. I think some of the early sessions, I remember one meeting where we were asked to bring an artifact or an object related to our teaching. I brought along a DVD because I quite often use film in my teaching. And we were all sharing those stories and objects. And that was a great way, actually, to find out about what other people do and also get some good ideas.
Yeah.
So that sticks with me. Other than connecting, I don't think I've done any collaborations internally, but I've continued with my external collaboration with the colleague at Henley that I mentioned. And we have written a book chapter together, which is on teaching and learning. We've presented at conferences together, including CABS and Advanced HE. And so I think, again, it's given me probably the confidence to do that. And I definitely think having a close relationship with somebody allows you to work on those things much more easily than if you were trying to do it on your own.
Yeah, definitely. So, how did those connections with your fellow SIME members actually changed your thinking, maybe in terms of your approach to teaching, to your research practice, and your problem solving in general?
Yeah, I'm going to give you maybe a more precise example if I can. So this year, one of the things I suggested to Radhika we could do was to bring in a lady from JISC who is an expert on AI. And I was interested in AI from a teaching and learning point of view. It's a really hot topic, I think, amongst both students and staff.
Yeah.
And so we had an initial staff meeting or SIME meeting where Sue presented. And then we also had some forums with students, which I sat in on because I was taking notes. And it completely changed my understanding and perceptions of AI, why students were using it, how they were using it, the implications for how I might rethink assessments because of it. And that event was so popular that we then repeated it a few months later, and it was to the BEST network. And Sue spent longer talking to staff and colleagues. And again, it really shifted my thinking in what we should be doing proactively with regards to AI. And that information, both from staff and students, has fed into some documents that Sue is producing, guidelines on AI. And I think actually those are some of the outcomes of some of these things that we create almost by chance in some regards. But now it means that Lancaster's voice has a part to play in those publications.
Yeah, thank you for this wonderful example, actually. And speaking about growth, as we all know, growth always comes with some sort of discomfort. So my question is, were there any aspects of the SIME experience that actually challenged you to step outside your comfort zone or rethink your approach to teaching and academic practice?
I think probably submitting to the CABS and Advanced HE conferences. So previously I'd gone to conferences more associated with my academic area, so the leadership conferences, but I hadn't been to the education conferences. And I can remember the Advanced HE one, it was down at Kiel It was, I think, probably 3 years ago. That I did feel really quite nervous, because suddenly you think, well, these people are more knowledgeable than me about education. But of course, actually, that's not the case. But I do remember I felt really nervous about getting up to speak. So we were third on the running order. So 2 other people talking before you. That builds the nervous tension.
Yeah.
And I don't normally get overly anxious, but I remember I just got a smartwatch and it triggered telling me to breathe. So it obviously detected a change. So I think that sort of sums up, actually, I did feel really quite nervous about it. But it went really well. And we met some really interesting people who wanted to know more about the work that we were doing. And of course, as ever, you build up these things in your mind, and they're never as bad as you might think they are. So I was really glad, actually, that I did do that. I wouldn't have done that, I don't think, without these opportunities through SIME.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel that there is actually some ways that your time spent with SIME and in SIME changed your teaching and research and academic practice?
I definitely think now I've realised that there is an opportunity to write and research more on teaching and learning. We also had the opportunity through SIME to sit in with a colleague, Claire Rigg, where she was going through journal articles and breaking them down for us so that we could see the different areas, how they were structured, how we could take a piece of our teaching practice and apply it. So I think that's really opened up my eyes as to how you can do that. I'm also in the process of completing my PhD, which is in reflective learning. And again, I think it's given me the confidence to realise that actually that is a legitimate piece of research and that it is going to be of benefit to other people. And so I suppose it's sort of just down to perhaps confidence and reassurance and having those people to talk to, that I think that's been the game changer for me, really.
Yeah. So you can feel these changes in your teaching practice. Did you feel any response from your students in way maybe they performed or responded to you after these classes?
Again, maybe just trying to give you an example. So this year I was asked to come into our cyber executive MBA programme, and they have reflective learning and reflective writing as part of that programme. And so the programme director said, would I come and do some workshops on that? And based on her feedback, the quality of the submissions this year, she's seen a marked difference in that than the previous cohort who didn't have those workshops. Now, again, okay, this is what I'm studying for my PhD, but this is giving me a way to apply and test that through running those workshops and then seeing a difference afterwards. So we're actually doing more of it with the incoming cohort who will start this academic year. So I think that, again, probably is a good example of how these things do make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. And just looking at the learning side of things, which aspects of the SIME experience for you actually best supported your learning journey and actually encouraged you to try new ideas and approaches, maybe through workshops or peer discussions or any other resources that were provided by SIME?
Yeah, definitely the workshops. I think the workshops, some of the guest speakers that we've had, particularly now with the wider remit that SIME has, I think those have really been stimuli to gather people together on a common issue. You know, I mentioned the AI one as an example, the one where we shared good practice. All of those things, I think, really are of benefit, and we probably wouldn't have done them without SIME. So all of that, even if you just take one small piece of that, cumulatively it makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking about the broader level of impact, has being part of SIME actually had any impact on your bigger decisions that you've made, maybe like your career direction or the role in your current department as you see it now?
Probably not so much at this point. I have seen benefits though. So again, to give you an example, through the connection at Henley, I'm now an external examiner at Henley on another programme. I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity if I hadn't have pursued the SoTL piece of research. So things like that, I think, have made a difference. Now, in terms of adding to my CV, that does add to my CV, as does things like presenting at the conferences, writing the book chapter. So those things are there. I suppose I'm at the point of my career where, as a senior teaching fellow, the next step up is quite significant. But it would help for things like I'm trying to remember the term. It's the professional qualification. So I am a higher education fellow, and I think the next level up is senior, and then the next one up is principal. So it helps towards those things, and those things then in turn would help towards a promotion.
Yeah.
So it's incremental steps.
So as someone who has been through this experience, are there any changes or additions that you could feel would enhance SIME impact even further?
I think it's continuing to look for hot topic areas, bringing in either experts or speakers, or finding people internally that are interested in those things. I definitely think that helps. Things like the paper development workshops that we've run, the journal. I'd completely forgotten about the journal, but I had an article published in the first journal that came out. I think those things actually we should try and continue to do, and or do more if we can, whilst recognising actually the biggest challenge for all of us is the time to do these things.
Definitely.
So I think it is always a bit of a juggling act. So trying to find suitable times in the academic year is probably the key, I think, to making those successful.
Yeah. And finally, what would you say to a colleague who is actually on the fence about joining SIME, especially someone who may not see themselves as typical innovator in teaching and academia generally?
I'd say just come along. Come along to one of the sessions, see what it's all about, chat to people, or even if you're nervous about coming along, talk to somebody that's been, find out a little bit more about it. But I found it to be such a supportive, safe space that I really think, there's nothing to be lost by just coming to one of the sessions and joining in.
Emma, thank you so much for this insightful conversation. And to all of you who are listening, thank you for being with us. If you're curious about joining SIME or just want to find out more, please visit us at www.lancaster.ac.uk/LUMS/in Research Centre section, or just find us on LinkedIn. And remember, we're always keen to welcome new voices who are passionate about innovation, education, and meaningful learning journeys. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.